This is Lantec's Video Interface Edition 24, in which we'll be seeing some new products from IBM. Victoria's back with Multimedia Futures, and of course Guy's here, as ever, with his view of the world. And unusually for us, we're actually featuring something that we're doing. More of that in a moment, because here is the stop frame index. To reset your VCR minutes and seconds counter now, you'll be able to read the timings properly. PECOS, Personal Electronic Catalogue and Ordering System. This is something into which Lantec have been putting a great deal of time, money and effort over the last 12 months. And last month we launched it to our corporate customer base. The title of it tells us a little bit about what it is, but here to explain more fully is Judy Quarrell, Strategic Projects Manager for Lantec. Welcome, Judy.
Thanks, Steve.
Judy, the title does tell us what it is, but what are the benefits to our corporate clients of PECOS?
Well, the IT purchasing environment is very complex. It takes somebody a lot of time to get quotations, to identify the product they're actually looking for, to ensure that it's compatible with other products they may be using. They need to keep in touch with the ever-changing prices.
True.
We have hundreds of cost price changes a day. And also they need to be able to order quickly and to know that their supplier actually has their order and is processing their order. After the order's placed, they need to know what's happening to it, when it's going to be delivered to them.
Right, yes. I actually work quite close to our purchasing department, and I know they spend as much time trying to find out what's happened to things as they do in finding the product
right.
originally. Does PECOS help our corporate clients in that way as
Yes,
well?
it does. Having placed their order electronically, they can check the status of it electronically.
Right.
I'll show you how that works.
So it's check order status.
Yes, if I don't know the number of the order that I'm checking, I can look it up.
Right.
And I did actually place one earlier that I called an order test.
Okay, in true Blue Peter fashion.
That's right.
Here's one you prepared earlier.
So I've got my order reference, and I'm now going to dial up to Lantec and find out exactly what's happening to this order.
So this.
So
that was really
the information's validated.
Okay. So this is.
Access.
Oh,
and
right.
this is showing me the order that I placed earlier.
That's remarkably quick. Yeah. I'm very impressed with that.
Gives me the customer's purchase order number, the Lantec reference, the Lantec sales agreement that we're processing the order under, date ordered, the date the customer requested it, and the individual items on the order. And if I select one of these items and go to detail, it gives me a lot of information about that line item, including how many have been allocated, so I can see I ordered one and one has been allocated from stock.
Right.
Obviously this is not a real order, so I can't ship it, but
Yes.
had it been shipped, it would say how many had been shipped,
Right.
the date that they were shipped on, and also the invoice number.
Right.
The status down here would tell the customer where it is in our order cycle, so it would be in the warehouse, in picking, in configuration, in dispatch, or have been dispatched to the customer.
Right.
So the customer can get a lot of information about each order.
What is the scope of PECOS? How many products does it have in it? How many pages does the electronic catalogue have, and so on?
The catalogue itself has 550 pages, but that is increasing all the time. And there are 9,000 products in the product database.
Right.
And again, we're looking at substantially increasing that over the coming months.
Right. Are all 9,000 there visually, or are some of the, you say, in the database behind it?
Yes. Not all the products are really interesting enough to put pretty pages together.
Right.
So we have the main product range contained on visual display pages, which are just like look and feel paper catalogue pages. And then the rest of the products are in a database that the customers can search through to find what they're looking for.
Right, okay. I think it's time maybe you showed us this. I'm sure everybody wants to see it, and I certainly do. Show us what the catalogue looks like, will you?
This is PECOS. It sits on the customer's desktop. It runs under Windows, all the Windows environments. And it's been designed to be very, very simple to use. It uses point and click technology. It uses clever buttons and links so that the customers can very easily find what they're looking for. Let me show you an example. If I wanted to look for a digital desktop PC, then I just point to computers on the menu and click. So and again, I go to desktop.
So it's like going through the index of a paper catalogue.
Yeah, ever so simple. Right. And then to digital.
Right.
I'm having found the beginning of the digital desktop range. I can look through using my next product button until I find the one that I'm interested in.
Right.
And on this page, you can see it's giving me an overall specification of the computer, which the customer can look at on the screen, or they can print out a hard copy if they want to pass it to one of their end users to have a look at. On the next page, again with the Clever button link, it shows me the models of this particular item. These are our most popular models at the moment.
Right.
And the prices, you'll notice here, are the price to the customer. So each customer has their own customised pricing, which is visible throughout the catalogue and throughout the product database.
Right. Each customer has their own
Each customer
pricing.
has their own. Yes,
as
every customer is
negotiated with their
different.
account manager and so on, I presume.
Yes.
Right.
Now, when PECOS is updated, it knows which customer gets which prices and makes sure they see their prices only.
Really, that's a fascinating piece of technology. What happens when prices change, Judy?
When prices change, the customer would request an update, and PECOS knows the last update they had and would only give them those changes that have happened in the meantime.
Right, you say
so it's a very efficient way of updating.
Right, you say request an update. Does that mean a floppy disk arrives with
Oh
an
no,
update
it's
on it?
done through a modem link.
Oh right.
Yes,
So
they
it's a
dial
totally,
up to Lantec, we download a file to them.
Right, is that a lengthy process? Does it download
it
all
takes a couple of
9,000
minutes.
products?
No, it's just the product changes.
Right. Okay, and their own pricing, as you
Yes.
say. Okay, what about custom configurations? We've got a digital selection of digital PCs here, but typically I know that our corporate customers want to order this PC, that software, this mouse, screen, and so on. Can they actually bundle those together?
Yes, they can. Do you want me to show you an example
I'd
of
love
that?
you to show me that, yes. Because I'm sure
Right.
this would be of significant interest to
I'm going to
some of our
open my
clients.
purchase list, which is my customer's do-it-yourself quote. And here I've actually got some customised configurations already set up.
Right.
Just given them a little identifier. And if I click, it actually explodes that configuration out into its component parts. All I need to do is tell PECOS how many of them I want.
How many are we going to order?
I think we'll have 9.
Okay.
And it pulls those all together onto the quote,
Right.
so that I can then get a total price.
What about something, we've looked at some PCs, what about some slightly more difficult to find products? What about something, for example, in networking and communications, those sorts of things? Could you find us, say, gosh, what do I know about networking? A Cisco Pro something or other.
Right, well I've
Okay.
got 2 choices.
Mm-hmm.
The first one would be to go back to the table of contents and look for the networking section of the catalogue, which we'll do first. Now here I know I've got them by manufacturer,
Right.
and there's Cisco Pro.
All right.
And if I just page through, you'll see the range of information that we've actually got available here.
Diagrams and everything.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah. Very easy to understand. But some of our customers who actually do the purchasing may not be IT literate themselves, and so they need to be able to understand the information that we've got there for them.
Right. Understood. Okay. You say you can also search for things. Can you find out also whether they're in stock with Lantec and what the latest prices are without downloading all this
I can.
database?
Right, I'll do the search first. Let's look for an HP printer.
Yeah, laser printer.
So
Laser printers.
what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put in a bit of a search string for the manufacturer's name for Hewlett Packard.
Right. HEW is enough to find Hewlett
Yes,
Packard
that'll be enough to find it.
uniquely. Right.
And I've got some product classifications here that make it easier for me to search. So if I find the LED laser
Right.
and then say I want to search the whole database.
So this is
This is
searching all
searching the
9,000
9,000
products.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
See how long this takes.
And it's
Oh, that
telling
was
me
pretty
we've got
quick.
14 of them
Right.
in the database at the moment. Having displayed the information, I can sort it. So maybe I would like to sort it by description,
Right.
and then I can select a number of items and bring them over onto my quotation. Again, it asks me how many do I want,
There they are.
and there it is.
Okay. Now, suppose I wanted to know whether those were actually in stock, how quickly I'm going to get my what is shipped? Can I get that information from PECOS as
You
well?
can, yes. Obviously, stock availability is changing minute by minute at Lantec. We have products coming in all the time. We have orders being shipped out all the time. So to get completely up-to-date availability information, you need to dial up via the modem. And I've got a check price and availability option here. All I need is my password. Every access to PECOS is password protected.
Right. While this is doing this, actually, let's have a word about security, because I'm sure our corporate customers would want to know that their account can't be used by anybody spuriously to order equipment on their account and so on. How does this work?
Well, each user has a unique registration number. That registration number is tied in with their customer group number, which drives the pricing, and with their account number that we would process any orders under.
Right.
And when they dial up to PECOS, it actually validates the registration number, group number, account number and password all together.
Right.
We also have 2 levels of access to PECOS, so users can, some users can place orders, but others are not authorised to place orders, which means you can actually put PECOS out in your end user departments, so they can look through the catalogue and have all the other facilities, but they can't actually place that purchase order.
Right. Yes, I think that's a valuable thing to mention.
In that instance, the customers or the end users can actually build their purchase list, their quotation on PECOS, save it as a file and mail it through their mail system
Right.
to the person who's actually going to place the order.
Right.
So that saves the purchasing function a lot of work, because they don't have to rebuild an order.
Okay. Now this is happening live on screen, a real telephone call.
This is a genuine dial-up.
A genuine dial-up. Right, checking price and availability, it says here. And where does it actually show us what we have?
Right, now it's actually come back and said all those items are in stock.
Oh, right, available one. Oh, I see, we've ordered one, available one.
Yes.
Right. How good is PECOS? Let's put it that way. How much does it really help a purchasing department?
Well, it saves them a lot of time, because trying to get quotes from a number of different suppliers, playing telephone tag, the ever-changing price scenario means that probably 50 or 60% of a purchasing department's time could be spent just getting the quotation, never mind placing the orders. And PECOS is a big help. The customers that we have given PECOS to already are thrilled with it.
You've obviously done a study of similar systems. If you were to take or to compare PECOS's ease of use and so forth with other systems, would you say PECOS is ahead?
I would, yes. I would.
I prompted you for that answer, didn't I? And you're totally biased, we know that. But
It's so easy to use. It's so easy and quick to install. It can be installed within a day of the customer saying they want it.
Right.
It takes half an hour to pick up all the functions,
Right.
and it can be used by anybody.
Okay.
It's very resilient. As part of my role is to support it on the help desk.
That's a good point, yes. Not
we
too
don't,
many problems
we
out
get
there.
hardly any calls on the help desk, no.
That's good news. How many floppy disks does this now come on? Because I know it's distributed on floppy disks.
It's distributed on floppy disk, and it's 5 diskettes at the moment.
Right. It's about time it went to CD.
It is,
Isn't it?
and we are planning on doing that in the very near future.
Okay.
That would mean we could have video clips and everything built into PECOS.
Right. So PECOS is fully multimedia
It
enabled.
is, yes.
Okay. Judy, thank you very much indeed for joining us. And in fact, I already knew that PECOS was fully multimedia enabled. That was a non-essential question. But this actually gives us an opportunity. How would you like to receive video interface on CD inside a copy of PECOS? Now that's a fairly stunning question, and we'd like some feedback on that from you, please. That's what the reply paid cards are for. How would you like to receive, instead of a video cassette, a CD through your door every 2 months? The advantages to you would be that all the items will be there, encoded into AVI files on the disk separately, be able to point and click at the ones that interest you particularly without winding a video cassette backwards and forwards. You'd also have it available on your desktop to play relevant sections to friends, colleagues and so forth as and when necessary. Think about that for us, would you? And give us some feedback. We'd love to know. And now, here's Victoria with this month's edition of Multimedia Futures.
again. Chromatic Research has announced what it calls the industry's first all-in multimedia processor for PCs. The chips, which will be produced by Toshiba, are designed to meet demands by PC users for faster video, improved graphics and better sound. Chromatic has spent 3 years designing the chips and will be up against some stiff competition. Philips, Fujitsu, IBM, Samsung, NEC and Mitsubishi are all also working on multimedia chips. Last week, America Online finally declared its intention to include internet transactions so that it can keep up with the emerging online consumer market. Also announced was AOL Enterprise, which will sell AOL technology and services to businesses looking to outsource their private intranets. AOL's CEO said the move towards diversification was essential. Scion Dacom has launched the first of its lifestyle products, the Surfer modem. As Scion Managing Director Gareth Hughes said, the Surfer modem is undeniably a seriously cool modem. It looks great and most importantly it works. Scion believes half the homes in the UK will be connected to the internet in the next 5 years. Scion's new Surfer and Surfer Pro modems are fast, up to 33.6 kbps. Both are supplied with speech, fax, data and Netscape browser software. Connection software for Pipex, CompuServe and America Online's internet service is also included. IBM has duly launched the all-singing, all-dancing OS2 Warp Release 4. It includes voice-type speech recognition, support for Java, Netscape Navigator and it implements OpenDoc. IBM expects Warp 4 to accelerate shipments. They claim its ability to deliver low-cost speech recognition should push it into vertical markets. Minimum system requirements for speech navigation and dictation is a PC with a Pentium processor. BT has just completed the trial of its gaming network Wireplay. After 3 soak testing free Sundays intended to test the maximum capacity of the network, Wireplay goes national in the UK any day now. The launch will be followed in the US via British Telecom's partner MCI. In the UK, charging will be fixed at 2.5 pence per minute. US pricing is not yet announced. The company is also considering flat rates of around £20 per month for heavy users. Sega of America is to launch an internet link for the game consoles at the end of this month. The American unit of Sega Enterprises Limited demonstrated the $200 device called Netlink at a trade show in June. Little more than an expensive modem, costs about the same as the Sega Saturn itself, it does promise to open the games firm to the impending online games rush expected within the next 18 months. In the meantime, 3DO has released its online game, Meridian 59, charging £40 initially plus a monthly fee. This changes the traditional role of the game's developer, bringing 3DO into direct contact with its customers. The $10 monthly fee covers unlimited play and updates. 3DO unveiled the game in August amidst concern that its adoption in the UK could be hampered because local phone calls are not free here. They are, of course, in the US. And finally, the CIA has had to close its open links to the internet after a hacker broke into the agency's official web pages. Visitors to the site after the hack were greeted by the words, "Welcome to the Central Stupidity Agency." A picture of the CIA director, John Deutsch, was replaced with a grinning man and the flashing slogan, "Stop lying." And that's APT's Multimedia Futures for October 1996. APT publish all this information and much more via the internet every fortnight. Their internet address follows.
Multimedia Futures is available via the internet. Email info@apt.globalnews.com. Please mention video interface in your inquiry.
October the 15th heralds some new ThinkPad announcements from IBM. Here to tell us all about it today is Nick Eads, IBM's Mobile Computing Business Manager. Welcome to Video Interface again, Nick.
Hi Steve, good to be back.
IBM have 60 to 70% of the corporate market share of mobile computing. What can they do to stimulate and grow from that fairly significant standpoint?
Well, there are 2 points here. I mean, The corporate market expects us to innovate and add things to ThinkPad as we go along, and we will on October the 15th. But for people in the sort of small to medium-sized enterprises, we'll be adding more models to our ThinkPad 365 range. So it's an across-the-board announcement on October 15th.
Right. There'll be a huge groan from a lot of our users, I'm sure, and as indeed the reseller channel, that oh no, more specification, more changes, more, if you like, cost to the user, where they've got to redevelop and reorganize their configurations. What's the driving force behind these announcements, and what can IBM do to make that as easy as possible?
We've been anticipating that groan for some time and running customer councils all over the world, and people are saying to us, you've got to stop chopping off one product and then starting with another one at some announcement point, typically twice a year. And this is our first attempt, if you like, to get that right. You'll find models like the ED9, which is the 760 high-end product, continuing until first quarter 97 as major corporates, our key install base, transition over from the old box to this new box through a period which typically takes them 3 to 4 months, as you rightly say, changing their configuration, settling it out, installing that preload and getting the customer, their install base right, if you like.
If I understand that right, you will continue to build the older models until the demand, if you like, for the new models begins to overtake. So in other words, you'll run with the products that are important to key customers just now, and phase that out over an agreed transition period. Is that a fair assessment?
That's a fair assessment. I mean, let me illustrate this further. In the current, if you like, 760 range, there is a high-end CD box that is the mainstay of our corporate business. There's a similar machine without a CD-ROM that is not so important to our corporate install base. Right below that is what we call an EL model, a sort of light version, if you will, a TFT machine, and that sells in enormous volumes for us. So what we're planning to do is to work with our major customers and major resellers to manage the transition from the old box to the new boxes, and as I said before, keeping the new boxes, particularly the ED9, the CD box, high-end machine, running right out till first quarter next year, certainly through the Christmas period, not cutting it off midstream so they have to go back into some sort of forced rejig of their configuration and everything else that causes all this hassle.
That'll be interesting to track the progress on that new approach, hopefully, to the introduction of new models. I must admit that this machine, this new model, looks remarkably similar to the old model. What's the difference, Nick?
Well, there's lots of differences in here, Steve, but I mean, people are quite relieved when we come up with something that looks the same as the last one. It allows, again, for more continuity.
I agree, yeah.
Well, under the bonnet, if you like, we've got a new 2.1 gig hard drive, we've got a 6X CD-ROM, we've got a 150 megahertz Pentium processor as well, and an XGA 12.1 inch screen. So quite a lot of the things you're expecting from IBM. Nice packaging, nice style, and good continuity with the product.
Right, and backwardly compatible?
That's true. The 6X CD-ROM you can take out and put in the older ED9 model. You can put the 2.1 gigabyte hard drive back in some of the older models as well. So absolutely backward compatibility and stability for our corporate customers.
Good. I believe that there's an NT-only machine on the horizon.
That's right. As part of this announcement, we'll announce one of our 760 EL models as having an NT-only preload, and that'll be a 32-bit base memory configuration with NT 4.0 preloaded, part of our commitment to Microsoft NT, and to the customers that want that product on mobile, increasingly a large proportion of our corporate base.
Right. That's quite a change in strategy. Normally, manufacturers have been keen to develop their product to be as open and as attractive to as many operating systems as possible, whereas you're going a different route. Any major reason behind that?
I think you'll find other manufacturers going a similar route. This is definitely a change for the entire marketplace. NT on mobile is becoming something that's very useful to people. NT 3.51 wasn't exactly mobile friendly. 4.0 it has been. The betas have been pretty good. IBM's put a lot of effort into writing code for the 4.0 release, particularly on the power management front. So 4.0 I think is a change for the entire market, and that's our statement towards that move.
What's happening at the budget end of the ThinkPad range, particularly for the more price-sensitive customers?
Well, in that particular slice of the market, the ThinkPad 365 is the product that those customers tend to buy. And we're adding new models to that as well on October 15th. We're adding a 133 megahertz Pentium, 11.3 inch TFT, 6X CD-ROM, and a 1.3 gig hard drive at the high end. But crucially at the low end, we're actually leading off with a TFT product, not a dual scan, which is what you might expect from a major manufacturer.
Right, so it's effectively going to have a high quality screen regardless of what model of ThinkPad.
Absolutely right. It's a very sort of high quality product right throughout the range now, so that'll be evident.
Okay. What about the dockaholics amongst us, Nick? Are you catering for that? Any developments in that area?
Well, docking is a consistent theme. I mean, the American market seems to think it's going to go away, but here in Europe it certainly is a big thing for our major corporate accounts. And we'll be adding a new selector dock to this particular range, there with 2 slots, 2 PCI slots, 2 ISA slots, some extra bays and what have you on the same date, so that'll be good. Plenty
happening there. And finally, something that caught my eye in the press recently, a curious incompatibility issue between the 150 megahertz and the 133 megahertz. The 133 megahertz is faster. Is this true, Nick?
Well, it's not technically faster. If you look at Intel's iComp charts, they'll show the 150 megahertz definitely outperforming the 133, but only by a very small amount. Intel's own words, this is an evolutionary chip, not a revolutionary chip. The crucial thing here is the 133 has a 66 megahertz bus speed. The 150, by contrast, has a 60 megahertz bus speed. Now, the net system speed on a high-performance box like a 760 is that when you're running MPEG and you're running all kinds of data from the CD, from the hard drive, up through the buses onto the screen, is that a 133 will actually give you a net system speed performance advantage. So you'll see our top-of-the-range machine being a 133, not the 150.
What's happening on the pricing front? Because usually with the respecification comes a host of pricing changes as well.
Well, that's true, and pricing changes there will be. What you'll see is that across the sort of 7 series range from IBM, there'll be a lot more features for about the same kind of price. So we won't be taking the price up. You'll see price stability and the old models continuing at newer prices, if you like.
Right, so basically price stays the same, but you're getting much more spec for your money.
Price stability, functionally it goes up.
Good. Nick Eads, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Well, the end of the programme looms, and with it looms our old friend Guy Kewney. Hello again, Guy.
Hello, Steve.
Guy, we've been hearing a lot in the news about online games this month. Meridian, Wireplay just finished its trials, 3DO about to launch their system. What's the Kewney view of all this? Where's it all going to go?
Well, as you know, Steve, I'm a very serious person, and I wouldn't waste my valuable time playing games, and neither, I'm sure, would any of the busy viewers here. However, it is a very good way of testing a machine to see how good its frame rate can keep up with these things. So I do advise people to run the software from time to time in a research spirit of mind. So the question is which one to do. And the short answer is that unless you're going through a very high-speed modem or a good ISDN link into a fairly well-served, over-resourced local server, then they are a pain, and a pain. I mean, Meridian from 3DO is supposed to be their way out of the hardware market. They're now calling themselves 3DO Studio or something like that. And it's very clever of them to do that, but their selection of a first game is web only. Now, I'm sorry, the web is not suitable for this. The reasons for it, and we can come back to the game in a bit, but I mean, it's actually very crucial to the way the web and charging structures in telecoms are going to develop over the next 2 years. If you look at the difference between the internet in this country and in America, you'll find that one of the crucial differences is that American TV was crap. And this has left its trail down history. Because they used NTSC, if you had a receiver of an antenna, what we call an aerial, you would, as they say, never get twice the same color. And the result was that people had to buy, if they lived in any sort of bad area of reception, they had to buy cable. Now, those cables are not the sort of cable that we get in London or in the UK, where you have lots and lots of fibre going into PABXs and massive data capacity. Those are coax. In other words, it's a tree. They have a transmitter here, and it goes out and it branches and it branches and it branches. So there is only one link from any individual user to the centre office, and if that's being used for transmitting data back, nobody else can, or else they have to restrict the speed with it. So when people talk about a cable modem in America, it's a concept we don't have over here. Now that gives you one side, that's 1 foot of the marching soldier. The other problem is that, of course, that in America, charging is, always has been, cheap local call or free local call and claw the money back on long distance. Now in that situation, the internet has been a bit of a spanner in the works. For a start, they can't use the cables to provide the extra bandwidth back to the hosts, because they're just not set up that way, the way we are. And the other one is, of course, the internet is their enemy. Here it's not. BT really doesn't mind how much you use the internet. It'll reduce their long-distance tariffs a bit, but BT makes all its money out of local calls, always has done, always will do. It makes a little bit of extra out. It makes a packet on packet switching, if you'll pardon the expression. But the fact of the matter is that there is no equivalent structure for the internet that we have here in America, but all the software, of course, and all the charging structures are developing to suit the American market. Now that means that there are going to be changes. Now, Wireplay, as it was originally conceived, was not a game. It was not intended as a game server. That's what it's being used now because it's turned out to be a very good way of making money. But the original plan was that you would set up something which would be called a game server, but the idea was that you would nominate it as your one flat rate number. A bit like the current thing they have, you get 5 cheap numbers. You'd be one where you say, okay, any calls I make to this are included in the flat rate. Right. And it would have been BT's way of saying, this is the way into the internet, and that was their plan in the department that was doing this, that they would then steal market. Because if they had this number, they would then not be easier to nominate their own service to provide the internet access. Now, it works very well as a game, but the web won't. And here's the charging link. Because the Americans have to charge long distance and trying to do free, they are desperately trying to work out a way of the way traffic is handled on the web is not suitable for streaming multimedia data. And if they're ever going to do that, they're going to have to find structures for. Now, ATM, asynchronous transfer mode, will deal with that problem, but it doesn't exist, it isn't running. And that way you can definitely say, this link has got to go to there in real time and keep sending packets. You can't do that the way the American telephone system is set up. And the web is set up around the American telephone system. Now, there are lots and lots of caveats, extras, and exclusions to all this, but the end result is that if I am playing Meridian over the web, which is the only transport medium, what happens is there's 2 of you playing. One of them walks up to the other one and says, hello, Steve, how are you? You say, it was very nice to see you here. And you become aware that after a bit of the chat, you don't seem to be getting a response. The guy's standing there looking at you, but he's not responding. And after 5 seconds, 20 seconds, sometimes as long as a minute, you suddenly realize he's not there. And what has happened is he's been talking, the link between you, or one of you and the other one in the server has slowed down to the point where the packets aren't getting through. Nothing is feeding through. He gets bored, you go away. But the system still thinks you're there. So you've got this picture of a person who is there, gone. So you don't want to play a web game, I'm sorry, until they've actually sorted out this major problem with the infrastructure, or until Meridian has provided a set of their own servers. It's going to be a very funny game. That's not to say people won't play it, they will. But don't, drive you crazy.
Okay, but people will play it nevertheless, you feel?
I think so, yes. It's
just because it's new and different, or?
Because they always have played multi-user dungeon games, even when they were, really quite grotty text games and kept resetting.
Yes, I noticed in Wireplay you can have 6 people in Doom and things like that.
Yes, of course, we would never play multi-user Doom in the office.
I don't even know what it is. No. OS2 Warp, version 4, launched, claiming such things as dictation, voice recognition, and so on. Have you seen it and tried it yet?
Yes, I did see it. I haven't seen the latest version. I'll do IBM the courtesy of saying that the version I saw has probably been improved since I saw it. But the improvements they're going to do can't be that wonderful, and it really wasn't that wonderful when I saw it. Here's the problem. IBM has, it has what I would call an acceptable dictation system in its voice typer technology. In other words, if you have the sort of application where it is useful to you, it will be useful, but I doubt that it would be most useful to most of us. And the reasons are, first of all, you have to speak in discrete speech. You have to stop your vocal cords vibrating in between words. Second, it is very much a put a headset on thing. You can't just talk into any old thing. And third, it's the work it saves is only worth saving if you're doing it in batch mode. It's not something you can just do and then stop doing. For someone like a lawyer who has a lot of standard letters where you can use one word for a standard paragraph, or somebody who's doing repetitive stuff of that sort where things happen again and again, yes, then it can be worth it. There he can or she can probably get a letter from dictation to print much faster than dictating it into a dictaphone, sending the tape off to the typing pool, coming back, checking it, saying, no, that's entirely the wrong word, sending it back again. It's formal, it's very easily done. There are lots of advantages to doing it that way. Where it falls down, and this is perhaps a personal opinion, but I think you'll find it shared by experts in the field, is that there is not a VUI. right? We have a GUI, we have a graphic user interface where you take a mouse and move the thing around. Now, you'll have noticed the difference between the old DOS command line and the GUI is quite radical.
Sure.
You don't do things with a GUI that you could do with a command line. It's sure, it's possible, and with Unix it's done. You take your mouse, you move it around, it translates what the mouse does into command lines and sends them through, and you have a big process running, creating command lines. But you couldn't do it that way. You couldn't run a command line machine from a mouse, you can't run a mouse machine from the command line yourself.
Right.
Because the thing is built around that. Now, a mouse is designed because computers don't understand voice. You would no more drive a computer with your voice by pretending it was a mouse than you would drive a computer with a command line with a mouse.
Right, I'm with you.
It's absolutely inappropriate. You do not, when you're trying to tell somebody to pick up a cup and move it over there, you wouldn't say menu, item, table, sub-item, cup, action. You know, it is completely banal. You wouldn't think like that. It isn't appropriate. It's a waste of time and it's silly. But nobody has actually gone so far as to design a voice user interface. Now, 2 years ago, somebody was working on this. There was a big consortium of people trying to do it. And as far as I could tell, it's come to nothing. And I suspect the reason is that it's bloody hard. When they invented the GUI, it took years of research by a genius, Alan Kay, who experimented on children and practiced. I don't mean he experimented with children.
Yes.
But he set up things with children to see how they naturally interacted with computers using something that they found they wanted to point at the screen. Now, if you don't want to point at the screen, you want to use your voice. You certainly don't want to pretend you're pointing at the screen.
Yeah.
You know, finger up. No, that's not how we work. So it falls down, as far as I'm concerned, badly in that sense. And from another point of view, I really no longer can find any reason to get involved in OS2.
Right.
It has several lovely features, not least of which is the object-oriented the file system of it. You can actually delete a file there, and all the files that are associated with it will then be screwed up on most things, but in OS2 it won't let you do that because it'll say there are all these links. If I copy it at the command line, it doesn't matter, it'll still reassociate everything. And things like that are neat, but it's no longer mainstream. It really isn't.
Okay. Let's talk about groupware for a little while, if we may. You were telling me earlier, just before we actually started on tape, that you can see this moving towards the internet and there are trends in this direction. Could you elaborate on that a little bit for me?
This is probably going to go down as the year of client-server, if you want to put it that way. I have lost count of the number of people who've rung me up and said, Guy, I'm writing a book on client-server for this or that publisher, and this is going to be the definitive one. And everybody's doing it. And the reason is partly that client-server software is becoming more and more feasible, more powerful machines capable of doing it. But more to the point, it's becoming possible to take what you've got in a small corner of the company, move it out to the company as a whole, and that's what we call the intranet, vaguely. Now, there are any number of interpretations of what we mean by intranet. I happen to believe that the intranet exists in its purest form in Lotus Notes. It's at least a year ahead of anybody else who's trying to emulate them. But what is happening is that the internet, which gave us the model for the intranet, is now having to accept the lessons back out again. I had breakfast with the head of Novell, the new guy, and Joe was saying that where we used to think of as the intranet as a sort of corporate internet, it's now better to do it the other way around and think of the internet as a global intranet. Now, if you do it that way, you suddenly become aware of the problems that you're going to face. Yes, you're doing client-server software, you're reaching right out any part of the globe that they have a connection, but of course security then becomes really quite an issue. If you're broadcasting IP addresses out into the world, you better have a secure operating system.
Sure.
And it's very interesting to see that Novell now says we are no longer head-to-head. We're not going to try and bash forwards with Microsoft on NT.
Right.
We see NT as a desktop networking system. We see ourselves as a global NOS. And we suggest that point security won't cut the mustard for a global network operating system.
Right.
You need network security. And I think that's probably a very important point.
Okay. Two brief items I'd like to touch on at the end. First of all, I'll give you the opportunity to put in a plug here for Ziff Davis Net, or ZDNet, as it's known.
Well, we sort of felt that it would be appropriate writing about the internet and that sort of thing if we actually did some. And to the surprise of our elders and betters, it turns out we can actually sell advertising on our website. People are paying, I don't say good money, but money, and all money is somewhat good, to advertise on our news pages. So we've got a site for each magazine, and we've also got a daily news site, which I warmly urge you to publicise to all your readers.
Indeed, that we do. Yes, certainly it's a daily news item of
several
of information.
And of course, at the end of each week, I inflict my meanderings of my diary for the week and who I saw and what I thought of them.
Right.
I hope it's embarrassing.
Sure it is. And finally, why won't you be in an aeroplane on the 22nd of August 1999, Guy?
This is an odd date, the 22nd of August, isn't it? According to my diary here, it's the 22nd of August 1999 is a Sunday, which I warmly advise you to write into your diary. And the reason here is very simply that although most people are going to have problems with their PCs on the 31st of December 1999, for reasons which I could explain if I had half an hour and a lot of maths, the GPS system, and I'm talking about the transmitters, not the little handheld
The
things,
global positioning,
the global
satellite
positioning
orientation
satellite system is going to roll over on the 22nd of August. And anything which doesn't actually understand that will the next day tell you that the GPS clock says, I think, the 20th of July 1980. Now, and there's an awful lot of software that interfaces with GPS at the moment, and what it has to be able to do, if you've got an old GPS that does this, is expect and accommodate the fact that the date will be wrong. You won't know for sure whether your GPS is going to be wrong until the date, because there's no way of going into a small satellite corner of the globe and putting your own satellite up and transmitting the wrong date and seeing what happens.
Yes, it's not like you can't just reset the
You
system
can't just
clock
reset
and
the
see.
system clock at home. And so you won't know whether your GPS is going to GPF on the day until it is too damn late. Now, the really nasty thing about this is that it turns out, and this was a US Air Force guy who's discovered it, and he's broadcasting it to everybody he can, it turns out that 2 or 3 makers of GPS receivers know full well this is going to happen and have kept it a secret in the hope that their rivals will go out of business when their customers complain.
Whilst dealing with it quietly themselves. And
Yes, but a bit tough of those who are flying in aeroplanes which don't understand it at the time. So I'm not going to go anywhere on that day, and I've entered it in my diary.
Okay, so 22nd of August,
Monday.
1999.
Well, maybe Monday as well. I would take it off.
Yes, just avoid
Stay
the whole
on.
weekend, basically.
Hide in a hole, Steve.
And stay there. Well, the next edition is going to be Christmas, so you're going to come and talk to us about Christmassy things next time
If I
around.
can't find a way of getting to New Zealand for nothing, then I probably will.
Right, okay. Guy, it's been great as always.
Thank you, Steve.
And that is Video Interface Edition 24. We hope you've enjoyed it. Don't forget to give some thought to the proposition we put to you for putting video interface onto a CD. We'd really like to hear your views on that. Do send back the reply paid cards and let us know. From everybody here, cheerio from now.